Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at Tuesday night's games here in the NBA. Got 3 games on the slate. In this video, we're bringing you our best bets from each of these. Also have a player props video only up for you guys, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us throughout this postseason. Also want you to head to thelines.com. You can check out all of the great written content we have up there, including all these picks that we are putting on the site, as well as use that odds finder tool that we have for you guys. You can make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you from all of these bets, giving us bets in the NBA this postseason. Nate, let's jump right into your first pick of the night here on Tuesday night.
Yeah, of course I'm going to talk about the Celtics here, mainly because I wish we did a Saturday show so I could have correctly predicted that they were going to smash the Hawks. Now it's a different story, though. In Game 2, of course, you get a little bounce back, even against a team the Celtics have beaten 6 times in a row here. So what I like actually is over, even though the Hawks were held to 99. I like over 229 for the game, and I like over on the Hawks total, in fact, more. For them to get 109, Celtics total is at 120, which is very high in a playoff game. Not saying that's impossible. I mean, in the last 2 regular season, they averaged 127. Against these Hawks, they had 74 in the first half on Saturday. And then, of course, human nature, they let up, so they only scored 38 in the second half. That game was played at a 100 pace, much faster than a lot of playoff games we've seen. Boston only 13 threes on 13 for 33. Not a great percentage necessarily. That's something, when they've played the Hawks, that they've done much better at. It's also a bellwether for the Celtics' success offensively is assists and threes. And these last 2 regular season, again, 34 assists. 22 and a half threes against the Hawks. One of those was just with the Celtics C team too. So it's just a schematic issue for this Hawks defense, which let's face it, is bad against everybody. But especially when you have 3 big guards coming at you from the jump, Derek White being inserted into the starting lineup, Derek White in his last 2 against the Hawks has a 164 offensive rating, and Tatum and Jalen haven't even been as efficient as they could be. So that obviously explains why the Celtics have more points to be scored here. They score a ton at home. They went over 25 and 16 at home. So why are the Hawks going to be able to score more after being gotten the clamps in Game 1? Trae Young was awful. He's 16 points, 5 turnovers, 5 field goals. It's a bit of a hangover after finally getting past the Miami Heat, which have had his number. He's been pretty good against the Celtics, though. 31 points a game, 9.5 assists his last 4 regular season against them. So good offensively, but he's a minus 42 because he's a sieve defensively as well. So more Trae. I don't think Quinn Snyder can pull him off the floor, even though the reason they were able to come back and make the game, sort of within single digits for a minute, is because he went more to Bogdan Bogdanovic and Saddiq Bey and smaller lineups, because John Collins, has had a lot of trouble dealing with Tatum, because just these bigger Hawks lineups are just not working against the spread you out Celtics. So I am looking at Bogdanovic, 11.5 points is his prop to play a bigger role here. Him and Bey combined for 44 points. On 61% shooting at Chicago in basically a playoff game near the end of the season there for playing position. So that's why I expect them to score more, because those guys are more offensive minded than I think DeAndre Hunter or John Collins if they're getting minutes at their expense. And I don't really need to point out why the Atlanta defense is vulnerable. I mean, their games have averaged 245 under Quinn Snyder. They've played at the 4th fastest pace. So clearly there's a possibility for an over even in the playoffs here.
Yeah, the Quinn Snyder-led Hawks are somewhat in some ways similar to Boston in terms of pace, space, and deep balls, and really like a lot of guys have the green light to shoot it if they want to. And I think the guys that, if they're not going to be able to hang with the Celtics on offense the way that they weren't with the guys around Trey, then I would expect that they're going to continue to keep more offensive lineups out there against this Boston team, and make the over definitely feel a lot better. I mean, we kind of liked it in the first game. Like you said, we didn't get a chance to talk about the video where we just said really Boston's going to come out and smack them, and maybe there's an opportunity for for Atlanta to keep things a bit closer. But I would argue that, like you said, if anything, Boston's going to regress upward, really progress to a bit more offense there. So I'm going to move on to my first pick here, Nate. And obviously, we both probably spend a little bit more time analyzing each of the teams that we care about what happens to them, as you took the Celtics game with your first pick there. And I'm talking about the Knicks and the Cavs again here in game 2, where the Knicks won 101-97 in that first game on Saturday. And I felt good about it until the first half. Actually, I felt good about the Knicks winning that game going into it until the first half because of what Jalen Brunson got hurt. But if anything, I think there's going to be a little bit more progression for the Knicks, which is kind of why I'm leading with a tease here. And I know you're going to make fun of me, as I often do with you, for the tease, but I'm going to say that if you tease the Knicks up to 9.5 and you tease that total to go under, so you tease it up to 217.5, so you can get it under that, and that's minus 110 on DraftKings, which is about the same. It's about minus 115 actually for taking the Knicks. Just taking that spread at 5 right now, or 5.5 depending on where you find it. But I do just want to get a little bit extra there and actually just put another half unit on it, include make it about 1.5 in terms of the level of confidence that I have on it. Adding a few more there, because I'll feel really safe with that. I think one of my biggest things here for the Knicks is that they played incredible defense, and so did the Cavs. And you were also making the point that there's not great shooters on the floor for either of these teams, and that's in part because on purpose for the Knicks, who played Josh Hart nearly 33 minutes in this game coming off the bench, and you're going to get a lot more of that. He took a lot of Quickly's minutes, and Grimes is the primary defender on Donnie Mitchell, so I don't know that Quickly's going to really find too many minutes in there. You also saw Isaiah Hartenstein out there gobbling up some of those minutes as well that Quickly would have gotten, which the main point I'm making about not having Quickly in there is that the offense is definitely more stagnant for the Knicks, who do not pass the ball in order to get points. They really pass the ball to just get one of their guys open to have it be a one-on-one scenario for them, which at this point is predominantly going to be Jalen Brunson, who's called upon for that, with Julius Randle a little bit injured and just a better option. Like JB is a better one-on-one option, makes better decisions down the stretch and stuff like that. So you'll continue. The other thing about him is he wasn't able to play much in the first half, picking up those fouls too quickly, and that led him to only be out there for 9 minutes. When they were without him, you were the one pointed out how bad they were without him in there, shooting about 40% from the field as a team, which is the only reason that he wasn't even out there for as many as he was. Like I said, with the fouls, so he should be back out there to play a lot more and keep those percentages up for the Knicks just by his presence alone, plus being the one who takes the majority of the shots, considering he took about 40% of the shots when he was on the court in this game, with nearly a 40% usage rate in the fourth quarter. That actually went up. So there was some bad shooting in this one. I do think there's the opportunity to have a little bit more. That's why I'm a little bit tentative to just confidently say under 213.5. I know there's reasons from the past matchups to think that might be the case, but the Knicks had 58 field goals uncontested in that game, meaning there's nobody within 4 feet of them, and they only shot the ball at a 40% clip in those situations. Cleveland, on the other hand, only had about 45 uncontested shots. The Knicks were a lot tighter on them, as they also have limited options on offense in terms of creators. And Darius Garland was good, but obviously Donnie Mitchell is just who they're going to ride. I mean, he had 30 shots in that game once again. So I think you can rely on the Knicks defense being able to handle that type of offense if you're not going to be more creative than that. And so I feel, I do feel good about them winning, but I'm just going to put a decent amount on a little added cushion there with the tease.
Yeah, I just don't think you need to tease in this situation. Like, the game theory is solid. The Knicks are good enough defensively to keep this within 5 points. And the under is I think the under is very, very likely here. You say people missed open shots. I say the other team gave them open shots. And Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell continued to hit circus shots, because that's all these teams have to go on offensively when they're facing a good defense. I mean, that's the way the Knicks played defense. That the entire second half was giving up a high percentage from 3 and packing it in. And that was successful against the Cavs team, which, teams have dared those guys to shoot. Okoro, Mobley, whoever else is out there. Like, can you beat us? We'll let Donovan Mitchell get 40 points, and you still might only have 100, if they can get there. So I just think you can go +5 and under confidently at +260 and not necessarily use the tease, which is weird because I'm always the guy saying, let's play it safe. Let's go teaser. But I'm going to move us on here to the Phoenix Suns and Clippers game, which is definitely going to be one to watch. Very interesting game one that the Clippers were able to grind out here. I think we all expect the Suns to win game two. And so I'm trying to approach this from the mentality of how does that happen? And it's a pretty safe parlay here. 4 legs. Suns money line, Kevin Durant 25, Book 25, DeAndre Ayton 10 rebounds. That might be the one that scares you because, there's no way, win or lose, those guys are not scoring 25 points. The Suns just have no other offense. They both played about 45 minutes in game one. Huge usage rate. Book had, a kind of an uncharacteristic mix-ups and mess-ups down the stretch with Westbrook taking his lunch. He claims he was fouled. He probably was. I think he comes back out and is pretty sharp here. And the fact that Ayton gets 10 boards is just so necessary because they gave up offensive rebounds down the stretch, and that's how they lost the game. They need to slip back into their very defined roles, which we saw in those first 3 games with Kevin Durant where they looked unbeatable, right? It was very clear. KD draws the defense. Book kills him on the weak side. CP3 organizes. DeAndre rebounds. And in 5 of the first 7 with Durant, he had double-digit boards. He does, averaged about 10 boards a game, his last 10 against LAC. Career best 27% defensive rebound rate this year. And the Clippers did allow the 3rd most rebounds per game on the road after the All-Star break. So their offense, with Westbrook continuing to have that false floor of confidence, shooting the ball, there should be a lot of good shots, good opportunities to rebound. I think Kawhi is too tired to score 38 again in back-to-back. I think they accomplished their goal here in Phoenix, and other teams might get greedy, try to go up 2-0. I think the Clippers are, not necessarily going to be in that mode. And Durant is just, not one field goal down the stretch for 9 minutes because Kawhi was able to be God on both sides of the ball. I don't think Kawhi can do that to him again. I don't think Durant's going to accept that again. He averaged nearly 36 a game the last time he played Kawhi and the Clippers when he was with the Warriors in 2019. So I honestly think you can get more bullish and say KD 30 plus. I'm just not quite sure whether it's KD or Book who gets the 30 here. I think they combine for 60. You can find those specials somewhere too. But what I'm saying here is those guys are going to score a bunch, and that's got to be the recipe for the Suns to win.
Yeah, I like it, and that's why I was playing around with some of the same game parlay stuff while you were talking to see how we might be able to finagle that so I don't have to feel so scared about DeAndre Ayton getting 10 rebounds in that game because Zubac, aka White Wilt, looked like a man-child out there, possessed, and was definitely limiting in terms of what Ayton was able to see. I would juice the points, basically. I would up those a bit, and I think Booker is a good bet. I think Kawhi is still going to be doing Kawhi stuff on KD, and that's who's going to be spending the majority of the time on him. KD's a better scorer, right? One of, if not the greatest scorer that we've ever seen. At the same time, there's one guy, maybe ever, who has the opportunity to bang with him enough to be able to limit him to under 30 points. But yeah, any way that you want to sort of juke those things together with the Suns money line, I like it. But man, Kawhi is a man possessed as well. And I know we're going to talk about him a bit in our player props video as well, because he looks really, 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 really good. And that'll be an interesting game. But so did Book, by the way, on defense. Should give him a quick shout out. An interesting thing there too, so you know, that Kawhi has guarded KD the 3rd most minutes of any player in the last 10 years. A couple other guys out there as well, Trevor Ariza and PJ Tucker. And the reason I know that is for the Zach Lowe podcast. Shout that out. Thought that was super interesting. At any rate, let me go to my last pick here, Nate. tonight, and I'm just going back to what I know, man, and that is the Knicks and the Cavs. And I'm going to take a bet that is for either of these teams to win by 5 or less. There's something called like a 3-way margin on DraftKings, which is where I find that, and I get 2-1 on my money there, and feel pretty good about it. About one of these teams winning by about that many points, because I think it's going to remain close, and there's going to be plenty more bad shooting. There's going to be plenty more Julius Randle sort of manhandling Evan Mobley and putting him on his hip and just keeping him where he wants him on the floor, because that was a big reason for Mobley having such a poor night from the floor as well. And he might be a little bit overmatched in this series with the bodies that they're able to throw at him. This is one of the only teams I think that could probably frustrate him as much as they have. And just going back to some of the other stuff that we were talking about, at least I was in the game before, I think Cleveland is going to come out hot, and I do expect Donnie Mitchell. I was considering him to have over 8.5 points in the first quarter, as you get plus 105 there on DraftKings for him to have 9 points in the first. I do think they come out sizzling. I do think that quarter is likely to be one of the more high scoring quarters in this game, that we don't both like points for sure, keeping it low. But that's another reason that I think you feel good about this game above more so than the other games, sticking within 5 points. I mean, that 4-5 matchup we just talked about with the Clips and the Suns, another similar scenario. But when you're talking about the other matchups, obviously the Nets and the Sixers, and you start talking about the 2 versus 7 in the East as well, with that you spoke about in the first pick here with the Hawks and the Celtics, it's too much variance, too many good shooters that could just have an off night here and there. For the Celtics, there's like 8 great shooters that they're probably going to be able to hit at least 15, 16 threes, but there's just too much variance for me to feel as good about this game, where the percentages for these two teams, I mean, the Knicks shot 42% from the field in that last game, 27% from 3, and the Cavs were not much better, 43% from the field, 32% from deep. I talked about how many open shots the Knicks missed, and to be fair to the point you were making about that there's bad shooters out there, yeah, that's going to continue to be the case. Josh Hart is going to be playing a lot of minutes, which is going to take one shooter off the floor. Quentin Grimes has not been a good shooter in a while, and Julius Randle, who I think you're probably ready to fade in this game too, for good reason. I mean, he has not been a good shooter even before that injury. He was having some struggles, really regressing back down to less than 3.3 threes made on more than 10 attempts. So well below 30% there for his shooting, around 27% from deep, which is going to be what he keeps doing, especially because I don't know that he has the ability to move off of that ankle fast enough to get by and try to use his quickness that he has over bigger guys, like maybe Jared Allen. He's one of the only guys he has that quickness on at this point. Even Evan Mobley is more fleet of foot than Jay Randall, especially with that injury. So without him able to really, be a secondary, like really strong scorer, but Jalen Brunson's still loving to play against Donovan Mitchell and being able to watch that one-on-one battle with two teams that do not get a lot of assists. The Knicks get the third fewest in the league, and the Cavs the 10th fewest. Like, there's just a lot of reason to think it's going to be more Slabanaka type of basketball, which does lead you to believe 5 points is about the max in terms of how many points one of these teams is going to win by.
Yeah, because there's just not enough possessions down the stretch necessarily for teams to pull away, which is why I'm giving you shit for not just taking +5, for going +9. I mean, for sure. I mean, the Knicks could lose by 6 points here, and you could be like, damn, what a bad beat if you also get the under. But you got to think the Cavs played at the second slowest pace in crunch time. The Knicks did not have a particularly good crunch time offense, and that was without Randle playing on one leg. Like you're saying, it's also a tough matchup for Randle against Mobley and Allen. And I mean, unless he shoots the lights out, I don't think there's enough offense here. Again, I just think you're going to see continued under here. But what you're saying about the first half makes a lot of sense. Cavs coming out hot. So I would keep your eye on the live betting option here. And I think you'll be able to click under when it's like 220 if these teams come out a little strong offensively. But relying so much on one guy for both teams, it's bound to start slowing down and in terms of the points down the stretch.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely not trying to be too clever here with an over in this one. But in that second pick, I like I said, feel so comfortable teasing it to adding a few more units on it. But that is all the time we have for you in our best bets video. Make sure to tune in and check out the other video we have up for you with a couple player props from the night as well, with 3 games on the slate for Tuesday. And until we see you next, happy betting.